let's get away from the tips and strategies videos for a bit, because the series isn't just for that. There's plenty of other VHS stuff out there about video games, such as Lara Croft Lethal and Loaded, a documentary from 2001. Not documentary. Documentary. There is a difference. This was distributed by White Star Video, which as far as I can tell was basically an online catalog for incredibly niche tapes and DVDs of whatever they could get the rights to. And it was produced by Maximum Films, a UK-based company I found almost nothing about. It looks like they barely existed for a year or so and just got out whatever they could in that time. As you might expect, the cover shows Lara Croft and her massive forehead. The back of it almost immediately throws out the term girl power, which the Spice Girls had already run into the ground a few years prior to this 2001 video. Admittedly, I'm not a huge fan of Tomb Raider. I played the first couple games in the series and they didn't really hold my interest. But a video that helps explain the origins of the character of Lara Croft, how she became popular, and how the series became popular, that could be interesting. And besides, what I don't know from personal experience, I can pick up from research later. First off, as made apparent by the black bars, this video was clearly made for DVDs and then repurposed to also be put on VHS. So even though this will make things a bit blurrier, I'm going to... There, that's better. It's alright, it's not like the video quality was that good to begin with, particularly the game footage. I've seen corsets with less interlacing than this. Aside from the creepy close-up shots of guys I don't know yet, there's already something a bit misleading about this.
Lara Croft is the heroine of Tomb Raider, one of the most successful computer games of all time. With 26 million copies sold to date, Lara Croft is richer than the Queen of England.
This makes it sound like the first Tomb Raider game sold 26 million copies, which it didn't. The number 26 million comes from adding together the sales of Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider 2, and Tomb Raider 3, and Tomb Raider The Last Revelation, and Tomb Raider Chronicles. Of course, implying one game sold 26 million copies is way more impressive than saying 5 games together sold 26 million copies. It's also more impressive if you don't mention that sales declined for each game after Tomb Raider 2.
Lara Croft's story is an explosive tale of world domination and raw sex appeal.
Please don't go the direction I think this is going.
Not many global superstars hail from Derby, a small industrial city better known for its brickworks and bone china than for being the birthplace of Lara Croft.
Actually, I know it as the place that Gordon Ramsay really didn't want to get food poisoning.
I can't afford to fuck off and die right now, and I don't want to catch salmonella in fucking Derby, so...
Toby Gard is introduced, the man behind the first Tomb Raider and particularly the design of Lara Croft. Forgive me if I think his explanation for her design is a bit... strange.
The way the straps go across the legs, which sort of make their whole leg more interesting. Everything about Lara was to exaggerate her femaleness. Major features are kind of there. She's got the long hair and she's got the 2 guns.
Even in the early going, it seems like the narrator wants to go a very particular direction with the video, regardless of what Toby or anyone else says.
From the start, Lara had killer looks and a killer attitude, dangerous weaponry combined with dynamic curves.
When that game came out, it was really the first full 3D interactive game that people had seen.
I remember my first interactive game in a full 3D environment with a character I could freely control. It was called Super Mario 64. It came out just before Tomb Raider. I also remember my first video game in a full 3D environment. It was Descent, which came out way before Tomb Raider.
Environment where you could control, for the first time ever again, a character that you could believe in.
I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. Does he think no one believed in Mario or Sonic or any other video game protagonist? Or does he mean believable? because that's not true either.
It was a sensation, and not just in teenage bedrooms. Its sexy, sassy heroine had caught the public's imagination.
How far into this video are we? Fucking hell.
So we thought, well, why don't we make the character British?
Stiff upper lip, top hole and all that.
And why don't we just make her not only British, but make her really British, give her a great education. She's from a very, well-to-do family. She's had, a very privileged upbringing.
She's also a former chimney sweep who carries Earl Grey in her backpack, listens to Craig David, and won't shut up about how it's coming home. For real, their explanation of how Lara is very British just makes her sound like a spoiled white girl. From here, things take an abrupt turn to Lara's backstory, something the developers admit to not thinking much about. I'll go so far as to say that it's the best shot part of the video, as this has fewer claustrophobic close-ups and no dark rooms that give a grimy feel to everything. Even if it does look like this interview is being conducted by two guys talking from opposite ends of a flight of stairs. They mention that Lara was educated/trained at Gordonston, a real-life boarding school. A real-life boarding school which the developers did not get real-life permission to name drop, so they made up by having Lara appear in a real-life advertisement for the school, which would appear before the real-life Tomb Raider film. I thought you might find that interesting because they didn't mention it at all. And they didn't mention it at all because...
But of course, what really set the public's pulses racing was simple: sex. Each of her provocative curves was as much part of the game as the tombs she raided.
They wanted to focus on this instead. It's going to get a little uncomfortable and/or embarrassing for a bit.
Lara had a secret weapon in the world of computer game heroes. Well, two of them.
The next 3 minutes are solely dedicated to Lara's breasts. Women making fun of them, unnervingly tight shots of guys talking about them, and going into a lingerie shop and asking a stylist what she'd recommend for Lara. I'm also noticing at this point that all the men are filmed with a tight shot of the face or sitting behind a desk. In other words, you can't see them from the waist down. Which in retrospect, good decision. There's actually a kind of interesting bit about the difference between the older and newer Lara models and how she's animated, but it seems like the director got bored with that pretty quickly and decided to make things more, and I don't use this term often, cringeworthy.
Lara may be no more than software and polygons, but to some people, the emotions she inspires are very real.
This guy, who presumably didn't want his last name revealed, goes on for 2 minutes about how perfect Lara is. She isn't. How the women he dates in real life don't come close, and how people are less inclined to shoot her because she's pretty.
If by contrast, she was modelled on Anne Widdecombe or Claire Short, people would be more inclined to shoot her.
It's only made worse by the constant cuts to grainy, blurry footage. It makes this look like the video equivalent of the guy who tries to use his cell phone to take upskirt shots on staircases. I'm not gonna lie, the first time that I watched this video, this is where I had to stop. And I almost shelved this episode entirely because, number one, this is only 16 minutes into a 45-minute video, and two, if that's what they put in the first third of the video, what fresh hell is waiting in the rest of it? Well, it's actually a clip of Lara Weller, who was a model who portrayed Lara Croft at live events, something the video doesn't mention for another 20 minutes or so, making her appearances before then a bit awkward. Beyond that, this phrase pops up.
She looks great as well, so what more? Hey, she's the perfect woman.
The word perfect is constantly thrown around when talking about Lara. Croft, not Weller.
This perfect virtual woman...
She's quite perfect.
Lara is the perfect virtual woman.
I don't know about you, but my idea of a perfect woman doesn't involve a frigid upper-class Brit who can't stand still and then turn without looking like a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic. From here, one of the dumber statements in a video loaded with dumb statements occurs.
I think she's one of the main characters, only characters in the game that utilises every single button on the controller.
So these ladies were the hosts of a UK-based video game television show called Bits. It was cancelled the same year that this video came out. Coincidence? Now for a bizarre segment where Leroy Thornhill from The Prodigy claims that their hit album, The Fat of the Land, was delayed because everyone was too busy playing Tomb Raider.
Yeah, as far as he was concerned, we were in the studio. But we weren't. We were dabbling with Lara Croft.
I haven't been able to find anything to back up what he's saying. And you'd think they could get at least one more member of The Prodigy to sign off and say, yes, we were playing a lot of Tomb Raider. Which, it's not to say that I don't believe Leroy. I'm just saying that if you look at the credits for The Fat of the Land, he didn't do anything. He's not credited for any of the music. He appeared in photos for the album, he danced in the music videos, and he played keyboards a bit at their live shows. I don't doubt him when he says that he was playing Tomb Raider a lot during production, because he largely wasn't a part of production. Things take an odd turn where they try to imply that Tomb Raider, and by extension Lara, are so addictive and enticing that it made goalkeeper David James let in a bunch of goals in a high-profile match.
He let in 3 howlers. Again, it was all down to Lara.
I'm going to read you exactly what David James said after this match. I was getting carried away playing Tekken 2 and Tomb Raider for hours on end. And no, Lara Croft is not a playable character in Tekken 2. I should also mention that before this game, he had the nickname Calamity James for his repeated screw-ups in high-profile matches. And he was part of a group of players known as the Spice Boys, so named because they partied a lot. I'm just saying that implying he let in all those goals because he was thinking about Lara Croft with all of these other factors at play, disingenuous at best. Then the video moves to a man who is spending less time with his wife because he's playing Tomb Raider instead, including when she was pregnant.
When Kelly was pregnant and I was playing it non-stop, I actually booked a week off work, Monday to Friday, just to play it.
But he's never took 5 days off to be solely with me, but he's took 5 days off to play with Lara Croft.
I don't know whether this guy ranks on the higher end or the lower end of the pathetic fan tier list for this video. He's definitely worse than the guy getting Lara tattooed on himself multiple times. At least he can use a shirt to hide most of his shame. They move on to all the advertisements Lara's been featured in, such as for drinks and cars, and the band U2 using her likeness for stage shows. Specifically, she would briefly appear on the Pop Mart tour whenever they played Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. And yes, I did track down the specific show that they displayed clips from, and got a better angle of it than these guys used.
It was hardly surprising that some people in darkened rooms would try and see a bit more of her. The internet became the place people could see what, until now, they'd only imagined.
Oh, please don't.
You can download a patch, and that removes all the clothes apart from the gun belt.
Yep, I was hoping this wouldn't happen, but here we are. Not only do they mention the nude mod for Tomb Raider, and not only does it cut back to the creepy tight shots of the fanboys from earlier, but they splice in numerous, uncensored, topless photoshops and art of Lara. You know, there's no age rating on this box. And the back of the box doesn't mention anything about this devolving into drooling over flesh-colored pixels. Wait, I need to say that a little differently for this video. Drooling over flesh-colored pixels. I'm just going to assume they didn't tell this Tomb Raider cosplayer that her lead-in would be the nude mod. While she does explain how she was introduced to Tomb Raider, either they didn't ask her about how the costumes were made, or they cut that part out. Because she just shows the costumes from multiple games,
then wanders around town as spectators try to ignore her, and the next 2 minutes are just her wandering around a nightclub talking about getting hit on by men and women.
But normally after a usually cheesy line, they don't really know what to say. They are a little bit taken aback. So certainly I tend to be very polite, but politely say no. Some women, obviously of a certain persuasion, actually find the character quite sexy as well, perhaps in the same way as men do.
And that's another thing about this video. The segments that should have the most time devoted to them, like the character and game's creation and development, have little time or just don't exist. And the segments that should get little time or not exist at all take up all of that space.
For example, there's the several references/inspirations from Indiana Jones, the long-standing rumor that Lara Croft's design was based, at least in part, on Toby Gard's sister, and the other long-standing rumor that Lara looks the way she does because of an error when designing her character model. And this video addresses none of that.
From here they move to the paid Lara Croft models, who have a shit ton of rules they need to follow, including no talking while in costume in public, needing to learn to walk and hold the guns exactly how Lara does in the games, and no eating or drinking in public while in costume. Wait, not even water? Really?
But it was our only way of controlling and making people realise that Lara Croft is not real.
Did I mention I quit the video a second time after the nude mod section? Because this is where I quit the video the third time.
Beyond the talk about looking like Lara and shots of men ogling the model from a distance, there's a segment with Phil Chapman, who was an animator and designer on the games from Tomb Raider 3 onward. He's in charge of all the ways Lara Croft dies in the games, and the video makes him look really uncreative. It's primarily Lara falling or getting hit by large objects while Moonlight Sonata plays.
What was that?
My interpretation is off a little.
The last major portion is a brief revisit of Toby Gard, who admits to feeling some regret from leaving core design shortly after the first Tomb Raider game launched. They don't address why he left. He was told to either make an N64 port from scratch or put together a sequel in 12 months and decided to just leave. And it's a hard tonal shift to the outro, which tries to reinforce how awesome Lara is.
I don't know what I was expecting, but, I mean, based on the back of the box sounding like it was going to be way more enlightening, and it also bringing up the first Tomb Raider movie, which doesn't appear in this video at all, I didn't expect this.
I went into this with an open mind, expecting/hoping to learn something about how Tomb Raider was created and designed, or how Lara was created and designed and her lasting impact. What I did learn was that the people who made this video didn't really care about that. They just cared about how hot they thought Lara was and gave only the faintest effort to have it be anything beyond that, which was only reinforced by the way they shot and edited everything. That's on top of the flat-out lying or less than half-truths used to make her or the game series seem much bigger. And no, I'm not making a boob joke out of that statement, fuck off.
I feel like if I were more of a Tomb Raider fan, then I'd probably be a little more bothered by these guys taking a series I like and boiling it down to little more than pixelized eroticism. But wait. Is this what being a Dead or Alive fan is like? Oh no. Oh no. Don't tell me there's VHS stuff out there for Dead or Alive. There's a VHS out there for Dead or Alive. No, we're not doing it. No, you can't make me. We're done. Until next time, I'm not doing that.
From a pencil sketch, she leapt to international fame, seducing us with her possibilities, blurring the boundaries between reality and imagination, always willing, always what you want her to be, always in your hands. But perhaps the real reason for her hold on us is that the real Lara Croft will always be just out of reach.
No.